and one of these. I know I'm a little ahead of the curve here. I already did the wing. I was anxious. I wanted to get cooking on this project. So one of the first things I do is to get the wing done. Just trying to figure out how to demonstrate this. There you go. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the wing in half. Right here where the spar goes. And then we're going to put the carbon fiber spar in there. And then we're going to epoxy the whole thing together. So what we're doing, we'll pretend this is the wing because I've already done the wing. And I've cut the wing into two pieces. I'm going to put my carbon fiber spar in there. Now you could try to hollow out one edge of the foam so that the foam sort of wrapped around the carbon fiber spar, but because they're the same size, I didn't think it worked real well. If you want to do that, that's fine, but I don't think you need to. So you've got your pieces, you've got your carbon fiber spar in there. You want to make sure that they're nice and tight. You put your piece of tape on here, tape it down good on this side. Push the pieces together, nice and tight. Tape them together. Same thing over here, work your way down along your wing. Make sure that the foam is hard onto the table. Push it together real tight and then tape it in place. And then finally, you want to run a piece of tape over the whole seam. And that just keeps the epoxy glue from coming out later. So now you're ready for epoxy. You turn it over because this is where we're going to glue it. You mix up your two-part epoxy, and you could use micro balloons to thicken the epoxy, and it also makes the epoxy white, which makes it prettier. Can you see that down there? Yeah. These things are amazing. They're absolutely tiny little glass balls, little glass spheres like your Christmas tree ornaments. But they're really small, and they're extremely light, because I can blow them away from over here. Gone. Strange substance. So, we've got our epoxy all mixed up. We take our applicator stick and we take and we put a good coat of epoxy on the inside of both pieces. Take our carbon fiber spar, put it in there. Now you want to rotate it. Turn it around a couple of times so you got a real good coat of epoxy on all over the spar. And you push it all together and make sure that the groove is full of epoxy. Just add some more in there if it's not full. You should, of course, be wearing gloves, because epoxy sticks to you almost as good as it does to the foam. These are great. I get these at the automotive paint supply. You could use medical gloves if you could get a hold of them. You can use the gloves that they sell at paint centers. I like these. Now epoxy will stick to about anything. The only thing I know of that epoxy doesn't stick to is good old wax paper. Now, it's real easy to find, honest. most grocery stores carry this. It's the same place they have saran wrap and Reynolds, you know, aluminum foil and all that stuff. Now the thing is that this stuff is coated with wax. So when the epoxy dries, it dries to some of the wax that's on this really thin paper. So you spread a piece of this out underneath your work so that you don't ruin your tabletop. If you're working on the kitchen table, your wife would just kill you. So now the epoxy's not going to stick to here. And then when you get all the epoxy on there and you're ready to let it set up, you want to put a piece of epoxy over the top too. You leave the one on the bottom, put another one over the top, and I like to put a steel ruler on it. The bigger the better. Here's my big one. I got this big one here. Bought this at, you know, home supply store. Put this on there. Your work surface has got to be flat. Put your big ruler on there and weight it down with anything you got that's heavy. Use a diving weight from scuba belt. And let it dry. So now that's dry. You come over and nothing stuck to your ruler. And you can peel off the wax paper and throw it away because it's really inexpensive. And nothing stuck to that. Turn it over, take the tape off, any little voids in here you can fill in with a little more epoxy with micro balloons. Same thing with this side. If you've got little holes and pits in there, just touch it up with a little epoxy. Make sure you're working on top of the wax paper. And you end up with this. And if you're smart, because this piece of plywood goes down with the same epoxy as you're putting the spar in with, do it at the same time. This is that 1/32 inch plywood that we put in here to support the motor pylon. Don't forget to mark out your aileron positions and the position of your spars as you take your template off, your paper template off. So now we've got this on and we need to do these. Now these are these 1x4 millimeter or 1x5 millimeter carbon fiber strips, and they're going in there edgewise. So all you need to do, get your hobby knife out, put it on there, run it down through here a couple of times. Make sure that you've cut it deep enough. You put the trial fit your carbon fiber spar, put it in there, push it right down. It should go right in flush. Okay? When you've got it to fit, you cut it to length, you pushed it on into the foam, and it'll go in so it's nice and flush so there's nothing sticking up. Then you mix up some epoxy, get them both ready. And if you didn't do this, it's a good time to do it now. Mix up enough epoxy. Give this a real good coat of epoxy on both sides. And then push it into your wing. Now the same thing. You want to be working on a piece of wax paper. And then you want to put a piece of wax paper over the top. And put your ruler down on there. And add your weights. And let it dry. When you got that done, you got a wing. And you're on your way to making your first Polaris.